gonna tie a stealth bomber. At least the way I tie a stealth bomber. A little different than the original. The original has a dubbed body. And usually the body and the wing, they sell cutters and you can cut it all out of one piece. But a lot of times I like to use a contrasting pieces of foam. And I'll use a different body color for the body than I will for the wing. So I'm going to get started here. Really good bass fly. I've seen them where they tie them up for salt water out of a little bit stronger hooks. If you pop it on the surface, that little air pocket there will catch air, the loop, and it'll leave a good bubble trail and chug as you pop it. And if you do a quick, like two-handed retrieve, then it'll actually dive, and it'll dive and wobble. As it's kind of like a Dahlberg diver in a way. Well, let's get started. I like these size 1 Mustad Sproat hooks. I buy them by the 100. I used to tie deer hair bass bugs with them, but since I've started using these flies and crease flies, I hardly ever tie any deer hair bass bugs anymore. But I'll get one locked up in the vise. One out of the pack. Nice and secure. And for this, I'm going to be using just ultra thread. You can use about any good strong thread. You're going to be putting some pressure on the bucktail and some pressure on the thong, so a good strong thread helps. Lay down a jam knot. Decent thread base as you go back. Back to about, the point of the hook or so. And here's where I'd like to put 2 half hitches in there. I've seen a video with Enrico Puglisi, I guess that's how you say his name. Pardon. He was tying a fly that I was watching him tie, one of his using some of the BP fibers, and he put 2 half hitches in there, and almost like a placeholder. I could stop right now and go get me some coffee or whatever, but I like it because it kind of keeps the bucktail. Getting ready to go with just regular old chartreuse bucktail. Keeps the bucktail from rotating too much around the hook. I'll get me a decent clump. Don't go crazy with it. I'll get me a decent clump and pull out all the short fibers like always. Maybe pull a couple of the longest ones that you don't like out. Kind of get them. You can stack it if you like. I feel that's unnecessary. And go about, I'd say, but shank and a half length. Pinch wrap on that, get it nice and secure. I'd like to get that bucktail in there good. And look pretty close, and then quarter inch or so, 3/8 of an inch back behind the eye of the hook. Cut at a 45-degree angle. Go ahead and cover that up. Not critical. All that you saw was going to be hidden behind the foam. Back to the bucktail. I use some. Be using chartreuse crystal flash. I like to take two fibers. Even up the ends. Fold them over. Flip them. Fold them over again, keeping those ends pretty even. Not dead critical. Fish don't mind. Underneath, come around. 4, 5, 6 good wraps are up. Take it over on the other side and wrap back down on it. That's pretty good right there. Once again, I'm going to do 2 half hitches. I'm going to do another layer of foam, or another layer of bucktail rather. Once over, and I'm going to do some black. I kind of like those contrasts. That's why I like the 2 different colors of body. A lot of times I'll do a body material in a neon green, and I'll do the back, the body, the loop in black or something, so when the fish is looking up from underneath, kind of got a good contrast to look at. I'm not necessarily worried about the color as it is the contrast. So I'll clip me a good piece, good chunk of bucktail. And you want to take that bucktail from the middle towards the tip of the tail. You don't want it flaring out too bad. And I find that if you take it from the middle or longer out towards the tip, it has less of a tendency to flare on you. I'll get that about the same length. I think I got a couple of eyes good. Get that about the same length there. I ain't got to clip it to length. I'm going to clip it to length when I get her in there. So another thing about putting that 2 half hitches, you always start right where you need to start. Yeah, bind that bucktail down pretty good. Same thing, hold it at a 45-degree angle. Either hold it straight up and clip it at 45, or hold it at a 45 and clip straight across. That way you don't have an abrupt drop off. Kind of tapers down to where you want it. And at this point, a lot of times I'll actually, I know I just said I taper it down, but I'll actually fill in this front part just a little bit. Alright, now we're about ready for some foam. Not quite. I'll take it and actually wrap around that tail. Three or 4 times. Kind of like the same thing on a crease fly. I did the same thing on a crease fly tail. Just kind of keeps it all together. Okay, one more time with the double half hitches, because it's really important here with the foam. Double hitch. It'll help keep your foam from sliding when you go to tie your foam in. Once over. Now I got a piece of black foam. It's about the width of the shank of the hook. And I'll lay it on there. I don't want it to come just a little past the eye of the hook. I got to leave a little bit of extra, because when I wrap it over the body material, a lot of times it'll shorten it up a little bit. So 1 wrap, tighten down a little bit. 2 wraps, give that foam a squeeze. 4 or 5 wraps, just enough to secure it good, and fold that back. A couple wraps in front. Now on the original, The originals used a dub body. I tend to more like a chenille body. I don't know, I think it's a little bit more durable and a little bit easier to deal with. So I'll tie me in a piece of chenille right here. Wrap up to about that 3/8 point back, and go forward with your chenille. Make sure it's decently tight, touching wraps. And secure your chenille. Ultra chenille works real good. It's a little bit smaller. This is a little bit bulkier. Now don't trim that chenille. Leave that chenille hanging. Now, I'm going to pull this first part of the body I had. I want it right there. Right where my chenille ends. So I'm going to trim this a little bit. And then actually I'll go ahead and cut a V on there. Ain't got to be dead perfect. Just don't give a hooey. Paints down good. At this point, a lot of times, if I got too much, I wish I would have gone ahead forward a little bit more. I'll just trim that off. And I'll do the same thing with my loop. I'll get my loop kind of where I want it. You can give it a big old loop. You can give it a real tight loop. It don't really matter. It's all your personal preference. Same thing. I want to clip that foam right there. And give the old point that makes it a little easier to tie in. Let it point down. Squeeze the foam, push down good on the foam. Put it for good wraps. Trim that. I ain't gonna necessarily trim that like crazy, but trim it too much sometimes the next part doesn't want to tie in, so it makes it a little bit more problematic tying in this next part. Go back to that chenille foam again, or not foam, crystal flash. This time I'll just use one. Same thing. See, I'll get my ends lined up. Oop. Earthquake. Trim it. Pull it over again. Earthquake. Trimmers, aftershocks. And again. Put my bum underneath there. Makes it a little easier to get it right where you want it. Oops. Try not to let go of the back part. I'm gonna take the chenille and everything. Flash and everything. I rolled about right there. I like to trim this part right about even with the body. That's your wing, I guess you'd call it. Excuse me. Now it's time for my delta, my body. What I like to do is I'll cut foam. In this case it's loco foam. About 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches for this size fly. I'll cut corner to corner. Looks good to me. That one looks better. Then I'll trim. in it on my body. Give those a little nip. I've noticed it. Give those a little nip, and on the foam cutting parts, this part will be round. But that'll keep you, you tip it to your line from catching on the flies much. Back there. Okay. Now Loco Foam's going to show, so I'm going to tie it with the Loco Foam down. Take it and I'll hold it right there. And I'm giving pretty good pressure on this foam. Well, that looks good to me. I'll take this foam, I'll take this thread on back. You'll find out why we didn't bind that chenille. Because now I'm going to take the chenille, what's left here, and wrap it around to give me something for my head. Now I got a hold of this flash, and I got a hold of this chenille both. And I'll bind that chenille down real good. Now I can clip the chenille. Being careful not to get into the flash. I'll take my wing and fold it over. And at first I'll give a squeeze. Give a good squeeze and a little bit of pressure on that thread. Gave it pretty good pressure. Happy with that. And then a little bit long. There we go. Okay. Now I use these round rubber legs. You get them in the big old long pack. Get a ton of legs out of that. I'll take one strand, fold it over like I did the flash, cut it in half. I'll be left with about, something like that. That's half a strand. I'll take that and cut it again. Same thing I did the flash, keeping my ends, even. So each strand out of that pack will make 4 of these. I'll take that leg and I'll fold it over, keeping the ends. This ain't critical because I'm going to trim them. Bring it over, give a little bit of pressure, help it flare out some. Take my other leg. Same thing for the other side. Sometimes it helps to actually turn the vise up on you. If you got a rotary vise, and you can do that. At this point I want to pull the long legs on this side out of the way. Make sure you get in position. I don't like them underneath the body. I like them more up here on the foam somewhere. That's about right. That one might be a little high. Sometimes we get to moving on you. Yeah, and pull this down just a little bit. We're looking good. At this point, take your hackle pliers, or I'll use my bead tweezers or whatever, and grab those 4 long legs. Clip them up. That helps hold them out of the way. Oops. That'll help hold them out of the way while you do a whip finish. I'll do a whip finish by hand. And this way, those big long legs ain't in the way. I didn't trim off the front legs just yet. Allow me to do this. If you have a big old set of whip finish tool, you can do this with the big set of whip finish tool or with your fingers. Like a couple 5-turn whip finishes. Trim your thread. Well, take your legs. Don't really stretch them, but hold them together. I like to go about halfway between the back of the wing and the end of the loop, the body back there, and trim those. Now I'll take the two little loops up front, same thing. I don't like to stretch the crap out of them. And make them a little bit shorter than the front leg. Yeah, just a little shorter. Okay. A little bit of good old Sally Hansen's or UV finish, whatever you want to use. I like to give a good coat on that thread all the way around. And that's how I tie a stealth bomber. Not really much to it, but a deadly fly, I want to tell you. This is just for us. I mean, I guess if it's diving and wobbling, the fish would see that. But for the most part, he's going to be seeing that part right there. Well, I like to tie a lot of times that two-tone. I'll have the body out of one material, a color, and I'll have this loop. So I got that good contrast. I think I will trim one of them little legs. Just for me. I don't think the fish care. There you go. Good old stealth bomber. Killer fly.